This is just a basic overview video about the pros and cons of human-powered vehicles versus battery electric vehicles. For two vehicles that are otherwise equal to each other in size, weight, aerodynamics, etc. And the first thing that we're going to look at is scalability. So a human can exercise and get more power. He can put on a couple extra pounds of fat for energy storage. The battery system, however, can scale up its power and energy a lot to a greater degree than the human can. You can have, 5,000 pounds worth of batteries, and you can have power systems that run a whole city. The human can't scale up their power or their energy to the same extent that a battery system can. So first off, there's a pro, the scale up of the battery and energy. Now, for a human-powered vehicle does make the human healthier, which is good for all kinds of reasons. The second is energy density. How much weight do you have to have for a certain amount of energy to be stored? And there's an example, goose fat, honey, things like that. So biological energy storage is the chemical storage that way, can store a lot more energy per pound, much more energy dense. And human fat, for example, can have 4 kilowatt hours per pound. And the average human here, not average, I mean, plus or minus per person, but having 100 or 133 kilowatt hours in a human is not asking for a whole lot. You can have a 100 kilowatt hour Tesla battery pack, the equivalent of just 25 pounds of fat. So the energy density is massively on the human powered vehicle side. So the energy starting with the sun coming in, a certain amount is lost in the atmosphere, blah, 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 but the amount that hits the surface, hits that plant, only a percentage can be photosynthesized, only a percentage of that is available as, like, say, carbs and stuff coming out of the plant. And it varies from plant to plant, but you can figure, say, 3, maybe 9% at most. And then the human, or in this case it's showing a picture of a cow, but you have something eating that plant, and about 1/3 of the energy is available to the animal. The other 2/3 just comes out as waste, and only about 4% of the energy it consumes could be in its tissues itself. And that's one of the reasons why, if you have, say, the same amount of land area in acreage for the same solar input, you get more energy food out as plant than animal. So then the light coming in and hitting a photovoltaic panel, those systems have been getting more and more efficient, but there are still losses. They don't convert all of it at the panel. There are wiring losses and inverter losses, et cetera, et cetera. But those systems in today's world, 2022, you can see maybe 15, 20% as a system level efficiency for a well-built system. And then the electricity that comes out goes into a car. This is from the EIA. And you might see from the plug to the wheel about 77% of that energy going through. And of course, that will vary from EV to EV and from type of driving, where you're using it, and things like that. Now, because of the massive energy density we saw earlier, that means that to have, say, a 300-mile range EV, you're carrying around a much, much heavier battery pack, and that extra weight reduces your energy efficiency every mile you're driving. So a heavier battery for longer range has less and less efficiency per mile, and you see that kind of here. The exact numbers where they break even, of course, will vary from EV to EV and how you're driving it and so forth, but that's just an overall trend because of the energy density problem. So here's a quick basic summary, and of course it varies from vehicle to vehicle, driving conditions and things like that, but all else being equal, the photovoltaic from sunlight to wheel is about 15%, give or take. The human-powered vehicle, a vegetarianish diet, is going to be about 1% of the sunlight getting to motion, and the pure carnivore, which nobody is, but if those calories is about 0.04% of the sunlight getting to motion. Now, I'm not a vegetarian. I do eat some meat products on occasion. I'm not assigning a ethical value to it. That's just straight efficiency. There are losses in eating meat. So energy efficiency goes to the battery electric vehicle.